Hi everyone, this is Miss Thomas, and today I want to do something a little different. I'm going to give you the lesson on imagery for poetry all online. So this is a new thing. I haven't done it before, so bear with me as I move through different screens and things like that. So let's just go ahead and get to it. So in the past, like this past week, we've talked about the structure of a poem, and then we've talked about the sound devices within a poem. And today I want to kind of go into a little bit of figurative language with the imagery that will be included inside of a poem. So if you'll go ahead and look at your imagery notes, we can go over the different types of imagery that you will see in your poem sometimes. All right, so looking at sight. Sight, the purpose for it is poets use sight imagery to help the reader visualize a setting, character, or scene. So on your notes, you're going to need to go ahead and fill this in. The whole definition of the purpose for sight. So when a poet is using sight, they're going to give you vivid details so that you can visualize it in your mind. So they'll say something so you can imagine what it looks like, what the character is like, or what the scene is like, or where they are if they're describing a setting. And that's all going to be based on your sight and what you see in your mind. For sound, poets use sound imagery to help the reader imagine the way a character, animal, or thing sounds like in a setting or a scene. So basically, if a poet is using sound imagery, they are using words like onomatopoeia, or like whoosh, and they're saying that the waves are crashing. So those are some examples for sound. The author or the poet wants you to really feel like you're there, but they're using sound imagery. Okay, we're going to move on. And again, make sure you are writing this down in your notes. As far as smell imagery, poets use smell imagery to help the reader imagine what a character, animal, or thing smells like in a setting or a scene. So basically, if a poet is using smell imagery, they'll use some very descriptive words to give you an idea of what the scene smells like. So they may say something was rancid. Ooh. Or they may say something smelled sour. Phew! So you can get my drift. So they use those very vivid smell words so that you get an idea of what it smelled like. Something can even smell sweet, like cookies, right? Okay, moving on. Let's go to taste imagery. So if an author uses taste imagery, the poet is trying to help the reader imagine what something in the setting or scene tastes like. So they may use words like it was moist. If you're talking about like a cake or like a baked good, they may say something like it was gooey. Oh, I love that word, gooey. Because I just love desserts. But anytime a poet uses those specific words in their poem, they are trying to give you that taste imagery so that you can almost imagine what that taste must taste like. All right, and then the last one for imagery will be touch. Poets use touch imagery to help the reader imagine what something in the setting or scene feels like. So again, they'll use those words like itchy, or it was warm, or they'll say something like it was rough. So these are other examples of how an author or poet may use touch imagery so that you as the reader can feel like you're there because you know what it feels like if something's rough or if something's smooth and silky. Okay, so again, you need to make sure you have all of the purpose for these imagery, different types, in your notes. All right, we're going to move on from here. From here, I want you to go ahead and take out your Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout poem. And we are going to read through this poem. This poem has lots and lots of imagery, and it has lots of sound, taste, smell, sight imagery, and we are going to go through that and identify it with this poem. So go ahead and just listen in as I have it read aloud to you. So just follow along. Let me switch my screens here.
Cynthia Stout would not take the garbage out. A poem by Shel Silverside. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams. And though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. And so it piled up to the ceiling. Coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, rotten peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese. It filled the can, it covered the floor, it cracked the window and blocked the door, with bacon rinds and chicken bones, drippy ends of ice cream cones, prune pits, peach pits, orange peel, gloppy clumps of cold oatmeal, pizza crusts and wintergreen stalky beans and tangerines, crusts of Blackburn buttered toast, gristly bits of beefy roast. The garbage rolled on down the hall, it raised a roof that broke the wall. Greasy napkins, cookie crumbs, globs of gooey bubble gum, cellophane from green bologna, rubbery blubbery macaroni, peanut butter caked and dry, curdled milk and crusts of pie, moldy melons, dried up mustard, eggshells mixed with lemon custard, cold French fried and rancid meat, yellow lumps of cream of wheat. At last the garbage reached so high that it finally touched the sky, and all the neighbors moved away, and none of her friends would come to play. And finally Sarah Cynthia Stout said, "Okay, I'll take the garbage out." But then, of course, it was too late. The garbage reached across the state, from New York to the Golden Gate, and there, in the garbage she did hate, poor Sarah met an awful fate that I cannot now relate, because the hour is much too late. But children, remember Sarah Stout, and always take the garbage out.
Okay, so that poem, Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout, definitely something that we want to make sure you guys are taking out the garbage for sure. But in that poem specifically, there was so much imagery. I remember they used my favorite word for describing something. They said gooey. I was like, all right, there's but they said gooey bubblegum. Where is it? Oh, somewhere in here, but it said gloppy glumps of old cold oatmeal. Ew. Some people don't even like hot oatmeal, so just imagine some cold oatmeal. There is so much imagery in this poem. Coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, and rotten peas. Wow. So, using this poem, you guys are going to first, here we go. You're going to do your poetry analysis. Now, this will be counted as a quiz grade. So you're going to fill out each, sorry, I'm trying to do get my screen right. So you're going to fill out each square just like we have been doing in class. The first one we did was on structure, and then yesterday we did sound devices. The first one we did as a class, and I gave you all the right answers so you have a good example, and then you worked with groups yesterday. Today it's all on your own. So you're going to fill out the meaning of the poem, what that the author or the poet wants you to learn or understand after reading this. And then you're going to do the sight and sound and answering all the questions that are in the box as much as you can, giving as much detail as you can so that I know you understand sight and sound from this poem. And then at the bottom, you're going to focus on smell and taste. What do you notice about the way the poet describes the smell or the taste? Okay? How do you describe the scene or the setting? How did they describe that? Can you imagine what it looked like? And then in the last box, the touch. What do you notice about the way the poet describes what things feel like? Okay, or what they may, just feel like. Just imagine some of those things if you were to go and touch them. All right, so after you have filled this completely out, you're going to go ahead and turn it into the box. You're going to turn it in, and then the last thing I want you to do is you're going to create a picture. So you're going to create a picture using the poem that from Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout, and you're going to draw a picture. Just draw a picture of whatever you imagine that scene looks like. And if you need to, listen to the poem again. So just rewind this video and go back to the poem, listen to it again, or just read it again. And give me a visual of what you picture when you see this in your mind. And then at the bottom, the very bottom of this page, it says, what lines from the poem inspired your picture? Write out the lines below on the lines provided. So this picture and the poetry analysis are both going to be turned into the drawer today. After you are done with that, you are free to read your book, or I would prefer you to write a poem of your own using imagery. Actually, let's do that. In your quick write section, you're going to write a poem using imagery, and let's try to use all 5 of the imagery components. So we've got sight, we've got sound, smell, taste, and touch. All right, and let's try to get this poem to be at least 8 lines. Or let's do at least 10 lines. So then you've got at minimum, you've got 2 lines for sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. All right, so that is it for me. Basically, you've got your notes here, and then you're going to do your picture. Yes, you'll do your picture. And then, of course, you've got your poetry analysis that you've got to do. And at the very end, you will write your poem. So we will try this and see what happens. And I am encouraging all of you to just do your best. Like I said, this poetry analysis will be a quiz grade, and all of you have, to some degree, have been filling out the boxes. But let's just make sure that you fill out the boxes in detail so that I know that you're understanding this. Because if you get a poor grade, it'll just be because I felt like you didn't quite understand imagery in itself. So if you have any questions, of course, just raise your hand and I'll come by and assist you. But if not, then you are on your own today doing your own work. Bye.